Out of all the subjects at A-level, physics is up there as one of the scariest. Knowing this, I picked it anyways because I wanted to do some sort of engineering degree at uni. And I don't regret it. In fact, I actually love it. Learning a concept and then going out in real life and seeing it play out right in front of me, that blew my mind. That being said, my relationship with physics didn't start off too well. I knew there was going to be a step up from GCSE to A-level, but I didn't realize how big it actually was. I was trying to adapt, so the first couple of weeks were tough. And this leads me to my first piece of advice, which is you're going to find it hard, but so will everyone else. I think I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago and I heard a very true statement, which is if someone tries to convince you that they understand quantum physics, then know that they're a con man or a charlatan or a liar, basically. Even the top Nobel Prize winners in quantum physics don't understand it. And we could extrapolate that to the rest of physics. The funny thing about physics, especially at AS, is that the grade boundaries are around 55 to 60% for an A. Go check the grade boundaries for AQA, for example, which is what I do. For the past couple of years, it's always been around 55 to 60%. Maybe 1 year will be a bit higher, but that's an anomaly. That means you could literally get 40% of the test wrong and still get the top grade. You could go in the test not knowing pretty much half of the questions and still get the highest grade possible. What does that tell you? It's a hard subject, so of course you're going to find it hard. Despite it being hard, there are steps you could take to get good at it. If I feel like I'm struggling, I'll sit down and I'll ask myself where I'm lacking. If I feel like I understand the content but I can't really answer questions that well, that tells me that I need to do more practice questions. And if it feels like I can't even understand the content at all, that means maybe I need a better teacher or I need to invest into a tutor. You get the idea. Also, make sure you don't fall into the trap of the imposter syndrome. I've told this story before, but when we got into the quantum mechanics topic in year 12, one kid in my class started a conversation with the teacher about university level stuff. And then another kid started chipping into the conversation. Now, I was already struggling with the high school content being taught, but then these two kids come in, they start having the university level conversation. It just made it all worse. But I grinded through it. And you know what's funny? The final AS physics exam, I ended up getting a higher mark on the test than that kid that started the conversation with the teacher. Just because other people in your class can answer questions when the teacher asks them and they seem like they understand the content more than you, doesn't mean that they're going to end up doing better than you. Now, another thing I did is that I always prioritize the important stuff. I feel like I say this every video, but you know the 80-20 rule. You need to find that 20% and make it 100%. In the case of physics, I noticed that most of the people that struggle because of their application, not because of the lack of content that they know. Physics is a very problem-solving based subject. So if you want to do as best as you can, you need to increase your problem-solving skills. And honestly, the only way you could do that is just by doing as much practice as you possibly can. For me, that 20% was doing practice questions. That's what got me the best results. And also, when you study, don't waste time on stuff like highlighting and coloring in your notes and all that useless stuff. I know some people that will literally spend half of their time studying, just making their notes look all pretty, thinking that it's gonna help them memorize it. If they spend that time doing practice questions instead, they'll get much better results. Just remember, you're a physicist, not a note artist. And lastly, the thing that helped me the most when it comes to A-level physics was my mindset. I know the word mindset is thrown around a lot and it's been associated with stuff like manifestation, but I'm not here to preach that. All I want to say is that you need to put your mind in the right place when you study for physics and when you do an exam. When I'm doing a tough question, or if I'm in an exam and I'm struggling with the questions, my mindset is, this question is quite tough, but eventually I'll get it. Unfortunately, a lot of people, sometimes me included, have that mindset of, this question is too hard, I can't be bothered. And they write themselves off. They just say, well, I'm not a physicist, or I'm not a mathematician. I'm not set out for this. How can you possibly think that you're going to do well if you write yourself off as soon as a tough question comes? It's a question I had to ask myself to fix my mindset. This is the mindset that makes you attempt a tough question in an exam head on, even if you're not really sure of the answer. The marks you can get from this mindset alone can be the difference between a B and an A, or an A and an A star at A level.
If you ever wondered who was the best player of all time, well, today, the fateful day, 18th of December 2022, we found out who it was.